How does video work again? Okay, here we go.
What is Star Wars? Let's start there. Hello and welcome to Two Dudes Review with Nick and Joe. I'm Joe.
I'm Nick.
And today we're talking about Obi Wan Episode 4, Part 4. Coming off of the heels of that third episode with a fight I don't think any of us expected to get quite so early into the series, and leading right into an episode with some more surprises to it. We'll get into those real soon. Nick, I just got to ask you before we actually jump into the episode, how'd you feel about it overall?
I really liked it. I think it was a good follow-up to that crazy lightsaber battle that, like you said, we were not expecting to get yet. I really enjoyed it. This was the first episode that I was actually annoyed with the third sister. I know she's gotten a lot of flack online. This was the first episode that I actually was genuinely like kind of not okay with her attitude for most of the time, which is funny. I don't know if it's the internet rubbing off on me or if I'm just getting to that point with the character that everyone was already at in the first episode. So that'll be interesting to unpack with you. Interesting to hear what you have to say about that. But yeah, let's start at the beginning though, before we go too crazy with that. I loved the obviously the episode starts with Obi Wan on a floating medic bed, I guess, and I really, he goes into the water chamber to heal. That was a really cool scene where they were kind of flipping back and forth between him and Darth Vader. I really like that.
Yeah, that was awesome. The Bantha chamber scene between both of them flashing back and forth, it really like I don't know, it just really harkens back to the "You're my brother" Anakin, right? Like honestly, yeah. Like the dyad in the Force that's built up in the third trilogy, or I guess in the new trilogy, I actually feel like this is more of a believable dyad than what we see later to come in the series.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we already know that these two are destined to cross paths, at least one more time in New Hope, right? We'll probably see them cross paths one more time in this series, but these are brothers who have fallen, and this is just a tragedy in the making. And yeah, it was really cool to like see that brotherhood continue to like mirror in that opening scene. It was awesome. Like, there's just no other way to like put it. I loved seeing it.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. And then it really kind of picks up and just goes, right? Like we're all of a sudden in this like camp, which it's like the home base for this like mini rebellion, I guess, that has been growing over 10 years and that's been helping Jedi like escape and find refuge. So that was really cool. To kind of see that and get a couple new characters introduced.
A real quick thing on that, because like I thought you just like hit the nail on the head there. Like this episode, like in particular, it was so much faster in beat structure than the three before it, like to a crazy degree. Because like the first two episodes in particular, like really like took time to like really set up like who all the characters were, like all the different worlds. I guess really it was only three, but the three different worlds and how it was all working with each other. And like, we get this great intro scene, like you said, and then right from Obi-Wan waking up, we just hit the ground running. Like right away, we're told about, like you said, like this rebel group, the Path, and we're introduced to these characters immediately. And like right away, like someone is like shutting down Obi-Wan as far as like how this is even working, and like the way they're talking, it almost even feels like he knows Obi-Wan. I mean, I guess he knows him by legend, but like he addressed him as general, right?
Right.
I did not recognize this character by name or by face. Did you?
No. I definitely just he must be a character that just, because of his knowledge, like he just knows Obi Wan as well, or whatever from
General Kenobi, I guess.
General Kenobi, yeah. Which that was kind of a cool little thing that he dressed him like that. I was like, oh, this is a little interesting, like blurb there. Maybe there's some more to that character that we're going to find out about later.
Yeah, respect the office. I liked that.
Yeah, absolutely. Something is burning in my house, and I need to check.
Yeah, you do. You should go handle that immediately.
I am so sorry. It's just like, I think it's a candle that, gosh, so annoying. So
we're back. We're talking about the path.
We're talking about the path. Yeah. So to your point, like we like made a lot of moves quickly in this episode. I don't even know if there's anything else to talk about except for like once they get to whatever, what are we calling it? It's the
planet it's not Mustafar, but it's in the Mustafar system.
Yeah. Right.
That's exactly where we head to next. But like just to a quick point on that, like as far as like the pacing goes, I almost wish that we spent more time with those characters on the path. Not that I found them incredibly interesting. I mean, like actually exactly the opposite. I didn't care too much about them at all. And if there are like people or fans out there who knew who that was and like they were just, I don't know, fanning hard at the sight of them being on screen, then I guess like forgive my ignorance.
Right.
But like, I don't know, just like a few minutes like with these characters, especially because of what happens at the end of the episode, right?
Right.
But we'll get to that when it comes. Anyway, what happens next?
So they basically then they make a plan to go rescue Leia, obviously. And the next thing we see is Tala walking, landing and walking into the base, and then we see Obi Wan in the ocean, in the water, swimming to an entrance that hopefully Tala can open, which she then, obviously she then opens. But
did you get Phantom Menace vibes from that scene?
You know what, I didn't. And now that you mention it, maybe I should have, but it's so hard for me to think about those first two films there.
So how dare you? Phantom Menace is a masterpiece.
Listen, I try not to think about Jar Jar Binks during my Star Wars watching time, so I
He was there for the kids, he served his purpose. He might have offended a few people along the way.
Did he serve it though?
Hey, without him, the Galactic Empire never happens. Okay, Jar Jar had a big role in those movies.
All right, well, we just lost like 400 listeners. Please come back. Joe's just kidding.
Oh, I'm just happy that we had 400 to lose. That's amazing.
Anyway, so what happens next, right? So she gets there. We see Obi Wan get rid of a stormtrooper and throw him into the water, and then he's just in the base. Now his quest begins to find Leia, while Tala is trying to run point on like directioning him to where to go and things like that. And there really isn't a big problem. In the meantime, Leia is being interrogated kind of during this scene. The two scenes kind of happening together, right? Where Obi-Wan and Tala are trying to find Leia, and Leia is being interrogated during this time frame.
Let's tackle those individually, because yeah, you're right. They do get interspliced quite a bit. So like just the Obi-Wan and like Tala stuff. So I thought for the most part, I thought this was fine, especially like the way Tala like gets in to the position that she actually secures, because like clearly she's not supposed to be there. The
Right.
first guy on like security like calls her out.
Right.
And like her lie, I actually bought into it, and I like the way like she sold it too.
Yeah.
I thought that worked. The one thing like I think that I was stuck on, I legit was stuck on this, because this comes back later, is some of like the stormtrooper like incompetency that we witness. So there's a moment where Obi Wan is walking down the hallway, and I guess he either hears or he just detects that there's a stormtrooper or a pair of stormtroopers coming down the hall.
Yeah.
And he ducks behind a hall beam. Now, my only issue with this is these stormtroopers were either blind or like incredibly nearsighted, because before he ducks behind the beam, we see the stormtroopers step into view.
Yeah.
So they should have seen him when he did that, but like clearly I at first I thought maybe they just don't care. Maybe they just don't care. But then of course, Tala communicates with Obi Wan, and the walkie-talkie goes off, and suddenly these stormtroopers are very good at their job. Yeah. And they recognize that, hey, some tomfoolery's going on. We don't mess with that. So they start looking around. They immediately rectify this situation for me by Obi Wan demonstrating some cool force powers here that I loved. I couldn't tell if did he mess with their perception, or did he cause something to fall from afar?
I think he just caused what I thought was like a knock on the other side of that door.
That's what I thought it was too.
That's how I viewed it, which was really cool, because that, earlier in the episode they kind of show him trying to use the force to bring just like a small item to him, and he's struggling. So it was kind of cool to see that him use it in a way that was a quick way to get him out of trouble. To your point about the stormtroopers, I think that the Star Wars lore has done such a good job of like making us think that stormtroopers are most likely useless most of the time. So anytime something like that happens, I just brush it out of the way, because I'm just like,
they're just such a neutered force. You're just like, whatever.
They're just there to potentially cause a problem if you're extremely obvious about who you are.
Just saying, like, I wish stormtroopers could be a legitimate threat at least at some point. It felt like they might do that at the beginning of episode 3 when they were going through that checkpoint. They actually felt like they were good at their job there.
Right.
But in any case,
they definitely were doing better. But okay, so Obi-Wan gets by those two stormtroopers in the hallway, which I think that's the same. Is that not the same hallway we end up seeing later, or a similar one? Probably.
It's a similar one, because the one that they hit later has the like aquarium window, and of course we get like Obi-Wan actually like holding back the water later.
That was badass. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I've got good things and bad things to say about that.
Okay. But anyway, in the meantime, so if do we want to switch? Let's switch to the Leia interrogating part, maybe.
Yeah. Let's jump to Leia real quick,
because that's the last big thing for Obi-Wan and Tala, except for Tala like having to deal with one of the Empire people.
Which can we talk about that? How she just like bodied somebody off screen?
Yeah. She totally bodied him off screen, which is badass.
Super badass. Which leaves me with so many questions as to like, it's not that I don't believe it. I believe it. She's obviously a badass. My questions are more about like how she did it, only because when the camera like pans and like we see that there's just a body like behind some stuff, my first thought was, oh, okay, this must be a different room than before, because there were people in that room. And if this was the same room, those people would have heard this like ass kickery going on.
Right.
But it was the same room, because like as the camera pans, like you can just kind of see somebody else at a desk.
Right.
And either like that was a silent takedown.
Yeah.
Which I guess it had to have been. Or I don't know, someone in control like just really didn't care about that guy. It was like
Well, yeah,
whatever.
I mean, but listen, if you hear someone get bodied in the Empire, you probably just ignore it and let it go, right? Like you don't want
Yeah.
any
I mean, it happens
trouble.
pretty regularly, so yeah, you just
Yeah,
go about your day.
it's all fine. It's fine. Go about your business.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's the last thing that really
Yeah,
happens before
before
meeting of the minds start to happen.
yeah. So then we've got Leia, which she's the actress is so fantastic. Like they casted her so well. Like she's so good. Um, so like, bossy and like confrontational. The third sister, which is really cool. Uh,
And manipulative. Like actually kind of manipulative too, which was
yeah,
great.
like frustrating the third sister enough to make the third sister very annoying to me. Finally, this episode, like I don't know. I just got like a trying too hard vibe to like convince Leia that she needed to tell her, everything she knows instead of like trying to torture her into doing it. I guess. Like, um,
Did you
I don't know, what do you think about
did
that?
so the torture thing, I'll get to that in a second. Um I couldn't tell if Reva actually thought that Obi-Wan was dead or not, or was she just making a play to try and manipulate Leia? Because like at first I
Oh,
thought it was a play. It I,
total play. I
okay,
thought total play. Yeah.
okay. I only doubted it a little bit later. I forgot what it was that she said. She said something that made me think, well, maybe she does think this. Um, But I mean, if it was a play, which I think it was, I actually thought that this was a really intelligent move on her part in order to try and manipulate the child.
Mhm.
Um, I really liked that lie. I thought that was a great idea. Um, but then, of course, Leia like flips it on her,
Yeah.
which again, like you said, like this little girl is just acting her heart out, and it's great. We've talked about it before, you and I. Like it'd be so easy for like a kid on this show to like come in and use these lines of superior intelligence and just come across as like crazy annoying.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. It's totally believable. It's some points it's adorable.
Right.
She's great. But as
Yeah.
far as that torture scene goes, um, there was a moment where I legitimately thought, because of what Obi-Wan was discovering about
Right.
other force sensitive people,
Right.
I legitimately thought we were going to watch this happen to Leia.
Yeah. I was. They let it get a little close to the vest there because like, and let's I guess back up a second because like simultaneously as she's about to be tortured, he's walking into this chamber where they're holding Jedi that they've killed and captured, which is like a horrifying realization to see that they're like keeping the bodies of Jedi, and and I kept thinking we were going to see someone we knew, a Jedi that we knew like from one of the movies, but we didn't. But we did get the last one that he looked at, which was a child, which kind of gave you the. It's like, oh, is this guy from? This is a kid from the temple from Revenge of the Sith. This is kind of like the thought I had when we saw the child, or maybe it's one of the children from the very beginning of the series or the Obi Wan show.
Mm.
You know, and then of course simultaneously we hear Leia call out, and Obi Wan hears her, and then he's close in that regard. So then we realize then, okay, she's not about to be tortured in front of us. Thank you.
Yeah. The last thing I need to see is a child being tortured.
Yeah.
I think that is truly the last thing I need to see on this planet. I don't want to ever see that.
Right.
And yeah, it did feel like we were about to get that. Glad it didn't.
And I'm glad that like they went with okay, Obi-Wan's about to find her, and they didn't try to do like, because they're kind of giving us some hints, that Leia's got, obviously we know that she's got some force capabilities, and they've given us some other hints here and there. And it's nice that they didn't try to give us like a Leia using the force to like get the stormtroopers to let her out, because that would have been a little much with her being so young still. Plus, then it leads to Obi-Wan cutting the power and us getting like a really cool, like really cool scene with him just using the lightsaber a couple times, and then you just get the really cool like cinematic part there, which like I know you probably loved.
Oh, I ate it up. I would say that's probably the scene in this episode that I loved the most.
Yeah.
Honestly, it surprised the heck out of me when it happened.
Yeah.
Because like, as soon as the power goes out, you're like, okay, Obi-Wan's gonna pop into this scene at any moment. I didn't think it was gonna be quite that fast, and I didn't think that trooper was gonna get immediately slaughtered by Obi-Wan. Right. That was great. To the degree of Reva leaving the room again. I really like Tala in this instance, where she's just lying her ass off to Reva, to the point where Reva knows that she's lying, but she can't. She actually openly says it, like, I can't tell if you're lying to me or for me. Like,
right.
That's how confusing your play is, and that was wonderful. I think they're actually using that character really well in this episode.
Yeah.
I think you and I both said in regard to the last episode, we will worry about that in the time being. In the last episode, we talked about how there was just a moment where she was trying to save Obi-Wan, and perhaps she wasn't being used in the best way that she could have there.
Right.
Didn't feel like that this time.
That's okay. This perfect play by her and her character for sure. And like you said, really cool that like the third sister was like totally open about not knowing if she was telling the truth or not. It was like, we have to take you to an interrogation because right now we don't know. And then obviously right here is when all hell kind of breaks loose and they realize that like Leia's been removed, and then now we're on a quest to get her back, where they're trying to find Leia and Obi-Wan now. What happens after that? Where are we at?
So this is actually the hallway scene that you were talking about.
Okay.
So Obi-Wan like takes care of a few stormtroopers here. He's just slicing them and dicing them. Yeah. Which is great. Again, I'm getting Phantom Menace vibes from this when he and Qui-Gon are first making their opening scene, and they're just like taking care of droids, right?
Yeah.
And then this is where the doors shut. And Obi-Wan has to make like the hero play as Leia and Tala try to leave throughout the other exit. Yeah. And Leia points out that the glass is breaking. Obi-Wan is securing the water with the Force. And it was at this moment that I realized, I think this place, like this base is... So I haven't played the Star Wars games too much. I did watch Mikey, my roommate, play one of the more recent Star Wars games. And in the climax of this game, there's a very similar moment in a very similar scene. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what this base is. It's this base in the ocean. And it almost felt like it was a reference to that as the water comes like flooding into the scene. If anyone listens to this and knows what that is, please let me know. Because I know that was a reference to something. But in any case, I loved watching Obi-Wan hold back the water. I loved watching him deflect lasers while he's doing it. This is all awesome. The glass breaks, the water comes in, and Obi-Wan runs away and is able to get out. So 2 things on this. 1, Obi-Wan outran the water. Now no, that's not unbelievable to me, because we saw in the Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan can force run.
Right.
He can run real fast. We know he can. But 2, we didn't see him force run. We just saw him regular run. And I was like, this would have been such a great opportunity for a reference to that moment in Phantom Menace, which like that's a power I think we've seen one time, and like we've never seen force run again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it's a way, like, because like how often do you see this in like action films where like someone's outrunning an explosion or lava or like water, and it's so unbelievable that they do that, but like you had a perfectly reasonable explanation for the character to accomplish that, and to help him like reach and exercise his force power.
Yeah.
And then you didn't do it. Yeah. I was a little upset.
Well, I think, and the reason they might not have done that is because they've started this off with like he hasn't used the Force in so long, and they started the episode with him trying to bring an item to him.
Sure.
And he could barely do that. So I think for the writers, it probably would have been a big jump for him to now not only control the water, but then also be able to force run in that moment. From when, the beginning of the episode, he was barely able to bring an item
for sure
into his hand. So that's probably why that wasn't the case. Although, I will admit that would have been a good use of the force run. So anyway, so they get through that, which was a pretty cool scene all around, I think. And then next, so then everyone's together, right? Because Tala gets away and she sees them there, right? So that's when Tala and them catch up to each other, right? So now they're exiting the base. They're walking out of the base, right? Like at this point, everyone on the base knows that there's intruders and there's a problem, and simultaneously they are trying to exit, and they throw this big coat over Obi Wan and Leia.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Which like I don't think we've seen a creature that big in the whole episode that it could belong to, but it exists, which I thought was quite funny. Like it wasn't even a blanket; it was like actually a jacket. Like it was a
jacket.
It was a trench coat, like just fit for a giant. I thought that was really hilarious.
100%. I couldn't stop laughing at that.
And admittedly, I'm very glad that it didn't work the whole time, because it was a little too ridiculous. However, really cool that they get to almost the end, or they get to the dock, if you will, and third sister just yells traitor, and like she can obviously she knows who they are because she has already seen Tala throughout the episode. And then we get into this problem where we're like, oh fuck, like how are they going to get out of this? But it's Star Wars, you kind of know that something's probably coming. If we're being honest, you can kind of feel it. And then like we get the two fighters like coming in and just blasting the hell out of the dock.
That was another genuine surprise for me. Was not just fighters, they were the snow speeders.
Yeah, that's right.
Empire. That was so cool.
That was really badass and really cool because, and they hint on this a couple minutes later, at the very beginning when they're talking to the people in the path, like they're like, we're not soldiers, like blah, 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 or whatever. And then like all of a sudden, end of this episode, it's like, well, you kind of look like that, slightly soldiery, like the fighter, you bring in the snow fighters here and blowing up some stuff to save them. And that was really awesome. And obviously one like almost like has to land so quickly it like crash lands in a way that was kind of funny. And then they get on the ship, or excuse me, on the fighter jet or whatever. And I'm using the wrong name, the snow, whatever, forget. And then sadly, of course, the other one is like continually to fight and shoot, and then we get a bomb or something thrown at it. And
honestly, I thought that was a pretty sick kill. Like that's like, as far as like awesome Star Wars kills go, like that was a pretty good one.
Yeah, that was pretty badass and unfortunate as well, obviously. And then that's kind of when we get the segue of they get on the ship, and then they meet I forget the character's name, but they see the guy that they met at the beginning who called Obi Wan General, and they don't have one of their guys, and I think it's Tala that says it looks like you are soldiers or something. It's like kind of like a crazy like.
This is actually exactly like why I thought we needed to spend more time with these guys in the beginning, is for like this payoff, right? Because like it is a sad moment, but like personally, like I don't feel anything for Wade as he died.
Right.
If anything, like I said, like I care more that Reva got the kill. I was like, yeah, that was awesome.
Right. Like we don't care about these characters yet, or maybe we're not meant to, because it's just a passing by, right? But it's still kind of like you're supposed to feel a little something, and so they didn't take the character building time at the beginning of this episode like they have in the past, like you mentioned. So
we do get that scene, right? And like you said, it is, whether we're sticking around with these characters or not, it is intended to be sad. I will say, like, of that fallout, the scene that I do appreciate is again is this young actress who's playing Leia. There's just this really nice moment between she and Kenobi, where clearly, the characters are very affected by what happened. Even Leia can appreciate the fact that a man just like lost his life.
Right.
And you get this great moment between the two where Leia reaches out to like hold Obi-Wan's hand.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly sweet just to like watch this like old man and this young girl like grieve together, I thought that was exceptionally well done. But I guess transitioning into the final scene here. I do have some questions for you on this. So transitioning to the final scene, we immediately come to back to the base, and Vader is now here. As we were actually told in the beginning of the episode that he was
not there,
not on the base, but he was nearby. So Vader is now here,
right?
And he's force choking the hell out of Reva, as he should, for just botching this completely.
I was excited because I thought it was about to, like, the internet's prayers are answered, and my newly minted prayers are about to be answered. And then, of course, there's a reveal that stops her from being murdered by Darth Vader, which I was just like, of course, something. And then she says, what does she say? She goes, I let them go.
Right. The tracker, wherever she goes, the tracker will follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which at first, for a moment, I was like, when did she put a tracker on anything? And it was like, oh, the tracker will follow. That was a weird way to say that. She's referring to herself. Like, she's just going to follow them, I guess. But that doesn't really make sense. But then they did something that somehow made even less sense. Because, like, I get when she did it. I understand that. What I don't understand is the level of logic that Reva displayed between that scene when she captures Lola, right, and the end when she reveals that there's a tracker, and then we learn that the tracker is Lola.
Yeah.
The level of logic that Reva is displaying is some like Emperor Palpatine level of like brain trigonometry. Like, it is wild, the leaps that she made. She was like, just in case, like, Leia gets out of here, I'm going to put this tracker in this robot now.
So I see what you're saying. However, I think they set it up kind of decent. I mean, at the beginning,
right, give it to me.
At the beginning, they show Reva with a piece of the from the wall, right? With the symbol that she's looking at from the path. Right? So they show her like she's looking at some kind of Jedi symbol that she recognizes or whatever. And so she knows, and this is, she says at the beginning of the episode, that's the second hideaway that they found. So now she knows that, like, it's not just an isolated incident, like there's a whole organization that is helping these Jedi escape on multiple planets. And so I kind of get that she's maybe thinking ahead to, if she does escape, then at least they'll lead us to the overall organization that's been undermining us for 10 years and helping people escape and find refuge, right? So it's kind of like a backup plan / helps her to, not die if Vader gets pissed if they get away or whatever. And I did, like, at the end of the at first I was like, what do you mean she put a tracker on it? Like, she didn't even get near any of those fighters. Like, I was like, if the tracker's on one of these fighters, I'm going to be pissed because, like, that doesn't even seem possible. And then I was like, where else could it be? And then I remembered that she had Lola in her hand, and she even mentioned that she used to have a droid when she was younger. So it's, to me, possible that she could place a tracker on the droid. Although, kind of annoying because she was about to just, not be in the show anymore. Not that I hate her that much like the internet does, but like, it was getting there for me, and I was like, here we are. But So I get what you're saying, although I do think they set it up decently to where like it's like at least believable based on Mary. And we still have like so many unanswered questions about where she comes from and why she's got a lot of like the strength with the force or whatever, and why she's so affected by some of these symbols that were on the walls. So I think that's interesting.
I think you're right. I mean, I think those questions that you bring up, I think those answers will definitely come. There's certainly been quite a bit of, maybe not foreshadowing, but there's definitely been a lot of hinting that Reva's got a past, right? And it certainly feels like it's connected to those children that we saw in the beginning of the show, and that she's probably one of the children. I doubt that it's going to be just a hint, right? At some point or another, like that will be confirmed,
right?
I will say, like, you and I have talked about the show before, and I've said that this show is a strange combination of things that are truly really great, including like some really great acting, some great writing, awesome effects, and then some like really inconsistent like choices or direction that's made. For me, this episode was probably the weakest of the four that we've seen so far, which is too bad because, like, honestly, like what we said earlier, that lightsaber shot right before taking out that stormtrooper is probably my favorite shot of the series so far.
Yeah.
But the climax of the ending and the Empire just like letting this ship go, because like we're at a base, right? We're at a military base.
Yeah.
I feel like we should be able to send some TIE fighters after this thing at the very minimum. Like even if it takes a few seconds to scramble these bad boys, like we can scramble them. I don't know. There's just some things that I find hard to believe, and I get that Star Wars. I get that like sometimes you just gotta like suspend your disbelief. But like I have a hard time doing it just because like the show does make great logical choices a lot of the time.
To that point though, like it's obviously a base of some kind, but like there weren't any like ships or fighters on that dock though.
That's true. Right? I don't think we actually ever see a spaceship land there, which does beg a lot of questions as to how Tala got there. Do we actually know how she got there?
Yeah, she flew in.
Right, but like, did she fly to the base? Like, did we see that?
Yeah, I think that at the beginning they show her flying in with her, whatever her ship is, because she had an Empire listed ship, so she was able to get the base.
Right. She said she had the code clearance.
But that's why I think it's not necessarily like military action based, right? It's a little bit more, maybe it's more like research and like positioning rather than like having some kind of like an operational like military strategy there, maybe just because we didn't see a lot of that.
No, I agree. It's definitely not visible. I guess like for me, it's just hard to believe that like for the second time in a row, a spaceship is the saving grace, and it's like, well, really, because remember in episode 2, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah,
they get in the ship and they leave, and Reva's just stuck on the dock. I don't know. That's
a good point. Yeah, I mean, you know,
I mean, it's like you said, dude. You know, as far as the base goes, it's just not prepared for that. I as a viewer am just frustrated that the Empire is not more effective in either security or chasing people.
Well, it's your whole we think we're powerful, we won't be prepared thing, you know?
I guess so, man. Absolute power corrupts absolutely in your very infrastructure.
Right, exactly. So yeah, but you know, anyway, as you were saying, like that last scene's really, really crazy with Darth Vader and all these little quick things that come about, and it ends with the droid with the droid. It didn't look like it was just a tracker. It almost looked like it had been taken over.
Yeah, like it was reprogrammed.
Right, like it's just an Empire droid. Did that make sense? Like that was what it looked like.
No, I thought the same exact thing. It was like, this feels like more than just like a Batman tracker.
Yeah, I was expecting like a small red like flashing light.
Right.
And then it was just like all like I was like, whoa, is this is just evil now? It looks
Evil
like
Lola.
Evil Lola, yeah. So that was an interesting thing to see.
Can I just say, in that scene, probably my favorite line in this whole episode gets uttered, and it's from Fifth Brother. When Vader collapses Reva on the ground after she says that she put the tracker on them, and Fifth Brother recognizes that Vader is going to stop killing her. Fifth Brother like yells out and he's like, "Master, she almost destroyed the base." It's like, that was a great point. I'm glad that someone brought that up because she almost did.
Yeah. And then she goes, Obi Wan Kenobi is more important than a base. And I was like, damn, she's got Darth Vader wrapped around her finger because that's absolutely true.
that was the right thing to say.
That was absolutely the right thing to say. And obviously Vader seconded that and loved it. And yeah, overall strong episode, I thought. It was a cool follow-up.
So if you had to give it like a best like score out of 5, what would you give it?
I think a 3.5 is a pretty decent score.
It's pretty close to what I would do. I'd honestly give it like 3.25 just because I'm petty.
Okay. Yeah, petty Joe. So pretty good. But now it kind of sets us up. Like I think there's only 2 episodes left. Sets us up for like a battle between the Path and the Empire. And
right, yeah. I have a question for you. Since we got 2 episodes left, right? And we basically have 2 antagonists, right? I mean, I guess you could also throw Fifth Brother in there, and that maybe he's just an antagonist for Reva. But we have 2 antagonists, and both of them really hate Obi-Wan. Who do you think the final antagonist is?
You think there's another antagonist?
No. Like, who do you think? Sorry, yeah, I didn't really phrase that right. Who do you think Obi-Wan like faces off with, like as far as the climax goes?
Oh, that's such a good question. I could see us getting like one more Vader and Obi-Wan battle, but if we do, maybe it's the next episode. You know what? We might not even get another one of those.
I think that's the boat I'm on now. Yeah,
because like I think that its third sister is going to be the main person that Obi-Wan's going to have to defeat. So like, yeah, this is going to be interesting because I don't imagine Vader goes to the Path, right? He probably sends everyone else first, and then maybe he heads there. Like if Obi-Wan gets captured or like it's confirmed that he's there, maybe he heads there, and then as he's heading there, there's battles and all that kind of gets sorted out. So that's a very interesting point. We might not get another Vader Obi-Wan battle, which will be a little disappointing, but also kind of would probably make sense in a way. Because like I think it's already been proven that like he's not strong enough to beat him right now, right? Like Vader just wiped the floor with him. I don't necessarily see him. I don't think they've done enough to show that like he's able to beat Darth Vader again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, all right. I think that's absolutely correct.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you're right about that and we don't get another Vader Obi-Wan battle.
Yeah, like honestly, it didn't even occur to me until like you were speculating what the next 2 episodes could be. Because like I was on the same boat as everybody else. Like I thought this is just round 1. We're gonna get a round 2 later when Kenobi's like ready. But
right.
I don't think that's the case. I think we already know what round 2 is for Vader and Obi-Wan, and that's much, much later.
Yeah.
I think, remember, like everybody said it. Nobody thought we were going to get a Vader Obi-Wan fight this early in the series.
Right.
I think the reason why we did is because it's not going to happen in the climax. It's going to be him and Reva.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I want another Obi-Wan Vader fight. That would be awesome. I'm a sucker for it. Yeah, I don't know if it works. Like honestly, like I don't know if it works. I hope it can. For all I know, hey, maybe we get Reva, Vader versus Obi Wan. It's both of them taking out Obi Wan. I doubt that happens. I doubt it.
Die. I don't think that's possible.
He only becomes more strong.
Jesus. Oh, but also like, and we don't have to talk about this too much longer because I know we want to close the episode and leave some things to be desired. But
agreed.
We still haven't got like a Qui-Gon Force Ghost, which I am happy about because I absolutely hate Qui-Gon Jinn. But
said only Nick and only Nick.
Like, why haven't we gotten that? Because like that's like one of the major things that everyone's expecting. So that's got to happen too, I imagine, or maybe some kind of Yoda sighting because Yoda's supposed to be teaching him how to connect with Qui-Gon. So that'll be interesting as well if we get any kind of thing there.
Yeah, I agree. My prediction actually for this episode was that we were going to get a Qui-Gon ghost appearance because it felt like he would connect with Qui-Gon when he was at his lowest. And I figured this episode is when he would be at his lowest, but not really.
Yeah, he kind of started to come back up here.
Yeah.
Here's one last thing, one last complete speculative fun thing we'll say before we close this episode here. When you said, what if we get Third Sister and Vader fighting Obi Wan? Well, he's going to need help, and kind of feels like a nice time for Yoda to kind of show up here and help out a little bit.
So unlikely, but goddamn. Give me the little green guy just one more time.
How great would that be if we get like one more little Yoda thing and it's just all four of them battling and the only person that doesn't survive it is the Third Sister?
Yeah, because she's got to face off with Yoda.
Could be pretty hilarious.
If Kenobi faces off with Vader, her dance partner is fucking Yoda.
Yeah, she done. So that'll be fun. I mean, that's a fun speculative thing that probably does not happen, but here we are.
Star Wars fan can dream.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end it out there. You're going with a 3.5 out of 5. I'm going with 3.2 out of 5. Or yeah, 3.25 out of 5. And I guess some grand hopes for episode 5 for next week.
Episode 5, part 5. So.
Episode 5, part 5. Don't forget. All right. That was Two Dude Reviews. We'll see you again next week. Bye. We'll work on that sign off.